Hi, Paul Catalina here at 365 Sports, and we've partnered up with DraftKings. Get this, right now, bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly from DraftKings, a partner of the NFL. That is right, $5. That's all you got to bet, and you get $200 in bonus bets instantly. It's that simple. You just download the DraftKings app now and sign in by using our promo code 365sports. That's right. New customers bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings customers can also get in on the game with same game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a shot at an even bigger payout. And if sports betting's not yet available in your state, no problem. You can still get on the action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports. I'm huge into the DFS. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code 365sports. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code 365sports only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Longtime college football coach, former Baylor defensive coordinator Phil Bennett, with us on 365 Sports. Has USC called?
I watched that game along with a lot of people and sort of predicted that situation.
Well, so,
wow.
Yeah, they made the move. You're a longtime defensive coach. You've been a head coach. They've given up like an average of 45 points over the last month. That doesn't include some of the other games. Is there just a point in the season where you just got to cut bait? And I hate to use that sounds so negative, and move on. And why now?
Well, the hardest thing to do as a leader is what's good for the whole and not the few. And I think Lincoln was trying to be fair. I think he was trying to be objective, but it just came to a point. I have a friend on the staff out there. It just came to a point where the kids weren't responding, and it was obvious in that game. You get a team that's I don't know if you know this, but Washington was 113th in the country in rushing the ball, and rushed for almost 400 yards. I mean, that was crazy.
Mm. Yeah, Johnson had never had more. He had 100 yards in one game, nothing ever close to that, and he goes off for 256. That's a bad deal.
Coach, who's a young coach, a defensive coach in this country that you think is due for a hit at a USC or somewhere that people may not know about?
I'm going to tell you something, and you can look around and you sit there and say, what about this guy? The guy, and Kirby has him. Kirby had him as an assistant, but the coordinator that's co-coordinator at Georgia right now is he's a young guy, and he's really a good football coach. He does a lot of things. Of course, he's at Georgia, and I don't know if he's calling it or if the former Florida coach is calling it, but they've done a good job. And there's a lot of guys around that are just earning their spurs right now. It's going to be interesting, but the guy at Michigan might be out of a job here. What's his name? Minner.
Yeah.
So they'll find guys that fit what they want. I just know this. They have better players than they're playing. And I've said this for a long time. Coaching matters. And obviously, unfortunately, they're not getting coached to the level they need to be.
Is Glenn Schumann the guy you're thinking of, along with Muschamp?
Glenn Schumann, yeah. His dad, Eric, was a good friend of mine and was the defensive coordinator for Cavan at SMU, a really good coach.
Coach, what did you think of LSU and Alabama? It's amazing all these years later to see Big 12-style football from years ago be like the hot-to-trot thing to do nowadays all over college football. But what a shootout. Not as much defense, but there was some. Just your thoughts on that matchup of Titans out there in the SEC West.
I laugh every time I see Nick in a game like that.
Yeah.
I've told you the story of seeing him in Shreveport that he wanted to talk. He goes, I know it's coming to us. We need to get together. We need to talk about this, what y'all are doing in the Big 12. And it's there. And, I'm going to tell you what, one of the reasons he's good is he adapts. He adapts. And he knows right now the thing they can do. They don't have a great tailback, not great receivers. They're winning with that quarterback, and they're finding things for him to do. I think it's really exciting, and unfortunately, LSU is exciting on offense and is very similar to what USC is. That I don't know if it's talent or just schematics, but they're really, really struggling on defense.
It's hard for me to understand LSU ever not being good defensively, because that's almost like in their blood when they hire somebody or when they have somebody that they recruit, that it's just the dudes that they have on that side of the football, but something is not working out at all. Back to Alabama for a second. If you're a defensive coordinator, you've now watched how Jalen Milroe has grown from who he was even against Texas, where he looked shaky, unsure. Now he seems to have confidence. How much does a quarterback's confidence with either passing or running strengthens because you become very confident the other thing you do well?
Well, I think we talked about this. I have a friend on the staff, and in their open day, Nick got their offense together and say, what can we do? What can this kid do? Let's don't ask him to do what he can't do. And I think it's become obvious that they've taken their playbook, they've minimized it, and he is a true dual threat right now. A&M is really good up front. They're good on defense up front. And in that game, I think he threw for 337 yards. And, he throws a really good deep ball. They have found some intermediate throws that he does a really good job with. And I'm telling you, they have found his niche. And it's obvious to me he's a different guy. He's comfortable. And I think it's because they've limited what they're asking him to do.
Yeah, they've simplified that. Like, look, if the guy can run a 4.4 or a 4.3 and nobody can catch him, just call that play, right, Phil?
Right. He a lot of times, twice in that game, and I think Brian Kelly said this. They said, well, it was zone read. No, it wasn't. He got pressure, and he never set on his fourth or fifth step, and he was gone. And they were playing some type of underneath man. The linebackers underneath coverage were running with routes, and it was on. And when you're that fast, it's a threat.
Coach, Bedlam had all the makings of a classic going in, ends up with an Oklahoma State win in what might be the final matchup for who knows how long. They've got a special running back there in Stillwater, but I thought the offense played well in general. Just your thoughts on the Cowboys getting that big win over the Sooners and how that unfolded.
As we talked last week, Mike Gundy and his staff are to be super commended for where they were and where they are now. It's obvious that whatever they're doing, it's turned. They put the players in the right position. Their quarterback's better. They're playing lights out on defense. I thought the whole game that they pretty much could have taken the game over. And really, I thought them winning the game, it wasn't an accident. The best team won. I think that he does a really good job. I think that these guys, it was a big game for them in the fact they haven't won many of those Bedlams. And with this being the last one probably for a while, I think those Oklahoma State people are going to be walking around pretty proud right now.
Phil, your thoughts about Texas on defense? They found a way. They may have gotten really fortunate with Kansas State. To me, in overtime, it looked like they were at the doorstep. They're ready to win the game, and then of course had the blow-up play on fourth down. Are they have players everywhere that can run and all that, but their defensive line is fantastic. Is their secondary vulnerable?
They really are. You get a team that can throw the ball. It's going to be interesting this week in Fort Worth. This will be a challenge for them. Everybody's not counting on TCU being able to do things. Kendall can work some things against them that will give a problem. And I think it'll be a much better game than what they anticipate. Now, obviously, I'm still confused. I like the coach at K-State. they had totally dominated the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And David, I did not understand 4th and 6 going for it when if you hadn't played well and you've been struggling the second half. I say, yeah, you got to take a chance. But they had dominated the second half, had just held them to a field goal.
Yep.
That game needed to be extended, and they could have imposed their will on them. I thought that was a crucial mistake.
Coach, I thought so as well, and we were talking about that a little bit earlier, and I went and looked, and Kleiman said in his postgame that his guys were just tired and that he felt like they had the right play call and that they needed to just strike there and try and end the game. Have you ran into that situation, I would imagine, before of just like, hey, we need to finish this thing, or is that a situation that you saw where, hey, you just got to give it a little bit more because we need to take this into a second overtime?
Well, we all know this, Craig. It's easy to second guess.
Sure.
But as I'm watching the game, I'm watching it as a coach. And I said, hey, if you get to the 1 or 2 yard line, absolutely. That's a situation that I'm going to go for it. But if it's 4th and 6, and I had thought the quarterback had tailed off a little bit in throwing the ball. So I'm thinking, kick the field goal, play defense. I thought Malik really calmed down. He was very average the second half, lost his rhythm, and I said, you can win this game. I remember one time at Notre Dame, we played 5 overtimes. And I remember one time, it was the longest game in Notre Dame in Pitt history. And they had some really good players. And I remember Dave Wanstead telling me, said, Phil, should we try to end this game right here or keep it going? And I said, Dave, we've got their number right now. I said, I don't think they can score on us a touchdown. Field goal, yes, but I don't think they can score. And we played it out, and we were tired. We played over 115 snaps, but yet we won the game, and I think it was the right thing to do.
Phil, Baylor beaten by Houston. It's a bad loss. All the losses, other than Texas, obviously very good. And now they're on the road against a pissed-off Kansas State. On the road against TCU, they never beat TCU. I think one of the last times was 61-58. Then Charlie Brewer got them too. But they end at home against a team that likes to just beat people up in a way in West Virginia. What is it like when you are facing what could be 3-9? The expectation's much higher than that. And as a coaching staff, when you hear the storm swirling?
I think without question, bunker mentality. It's about us. We're the one in the storm. We're the only people who can get out of the storm. You've got to shut your ears to the noise. Everybody's got an opinion about the coach, about the players, about the quarterback, and you've got to have a bunker mentality of saying, you know what, I'm going to find a way to get better these next 3 games. And we still have something to prove. But I believe that. Of course, I'm a longtime coach, and I would always say that. But I think the coaches, and I think they're all smart, good, tough guys, can lead that, and they can be the voices of what they want done. And I think Dave can't keep his hands in his pocket, and he can't be mild. He's got to let those kids know there's still big game at Manhattan, big game in Fort Worth, and then we're going to come back and we're going to beat West Virginia. There's still a lot of games to play and to play for. And I think you have to have that bunker mentality, and stay away from the woe is me. We could have done this, coulda, shoulda. Who's getting fired? Who's staying? Don't worry about that. It's the here and the now. That's what you've got to deal with. And it's got to come from these coaches. It's got to come from Dave Aranda. And he's got to show that he's got control of this group. And I know they're those type guys, and I hope to see it happen.
Phil, what do you think is going to happen with Jimbo Fisher now that they're 5-4 and they have to win out to get back to that baseline of what they have been under him and Kevin Sumlin of 8-4?
I've said the whole time, when A&M hired Jimbo, they hired a 5-6 coach. That's what his record was. And I think Bill Parcells says it. Unfortunately, you are what your record are. And then they give him extended contract when the AD supposedly was going to hire him at LSU. People say, "Oh, you can't pay off $75 million." Well, listen to me. They could pay it off last year. If the powers to be see that they don't see the progress, with what's going on, that they'll make a change. Now, with that said, I thought they played the best game. Now, the Ole Miss got after them defensively, but offensively they showed up. They played tough. They played they fought adversity and just weren't quite good enough and didn't have the playmakers to win the game. You look at Ole Miss. Ole Miss had a portal guy from Louisiana Tech that we played against at North Texas that's going to be a first-round pick. He literally made some catches that only first-round picks make. And A&M, they competed, but people are tired of it. It's the 9th game in a row on the road that they've lost. And they, with the money they spend here, and also at Baylor, I think you got to be careful saying, well, we competed. You know what? It's not about competing. It's about finding a way to win. And it will be interesting to see what these people at the end of the year. Now, I will say this. They got 3 games. They got Abilene Christian, Mississippi State. Definitely win 2 of them, and they're very capable of beating LSU, especially with LSU's defense. If something were to happen to LSU's quarterback, A&M could definitely win this. But it's going to be an interesting scenario, along with a lot of other people.
Coach, I know you got to experience a little bit of this with the portal when you returned there, but I think of Baylor or any other school for that matter, but them in particular, and you look at hey, they got a nice group in the secondary that, hey, in 3 or 4 years they could be sensational. They've got this or that that's nice, but in the portal area you can't bank on year to year anymore. Those guys are all probably getting DM'd from schools all over the country. Caden Jenkins, they're the young secondary. Yeah, so yeah. I mean, where do you begin even with that? Can you even imagine having to go through that? And I know you had to go through that a little bit, but just a year after year basis, how different is that from years past when you could kind of bank, okay, well, at least these guys will progress and evolve, and we've got them under our wings for 2 or 3 years? It's
a new day and time. And right now, people, there used to be a saying when I was a young coach, all through it, people remember college football, people remember November. What you better remember is start recruiting the kids you want back now. Don't think about the ones you don't have. Be re-recruiting the kids that make a difference in your program right now. Know what's going on. And you're right. People can say what they want to, but they're getting DMs, they're getting friends, they're getting former coaches. It is a free-for-all. And everybody, just like in the world, is trying to better themselves. And if you're not involved, I think you can see it Clemson right now. I think you're going to see something change there because Clemson's going to be involved. You're not in the portal, you better get in the portal because that. And I hate it because I really think it's affecting high school recruiting. You ask every high school coach, he said, we're not getting recruited as hard as we used to because everybody feels the need to win now. We can't wait 2 years to develop. You mentioned develop, you better have some strong support.
Phil, I got a question for you, if you don't mind. One more on Baylor and Dave Aranda. Craig kind of shared something with me. There was maybe an interview with a couple of guys. One guy's in recruiting, another guy's a co-host of a podcast about when Dave Aranda was a defensive coordinator at Wisconsin. We knew, you knew, he knew what type of players they were going to get, and they were going to reload on that side of the ball every single year with pretty much like who they were. And then at LSU, like I said earlier, it's hard to imagine their defense because they've got some alphas. They've got some dudes.
They got a great pool.
They've got an incredible pool. Louisiana, Houston, etc. in the South. Florida. How much do you think that Dave Aranda is trying to learn how to construct or develop, there's that word, or try to put together an entire roster on both sides of the ball? And how much of a challenge is that for someone who's been mainly 100% defensive coordinator?
Roster management has jumped to almost equal to coaching ability. You have to evaluate and you have to have roster management at the top of your list because of what we just discussed between NIL, the portal, and I'm telling you something. I will tell people, I would never, all these recruiting coordinators, they're never going to pick one of my guys. Everywhere I've ever coached, of course, I'm older, I tell them, I told Art when I went there, I'm picking my coaches, I'm picking my players. I'm not going to take somebody else's players. And one of the things I was awful proud of at Baylor, we knew we probably weren't going to get 5-star players on defense. We were a 5-star offense, but we picked guys, the Eddie Lackey, the Taylor Young, the Smith, the D lineman. We got a Cagle and we got Billingsley. He was a big get, but we took and managed guys that were able to be what we wanted. They might not be 5 stars, and that's what Baylor's got to do. Baylor's got to look at that portal, and they've got to say, all right, and maybe not look at what Michigan has. Hell, I'm telling you, you can go to eastern New Mexico. You can find football players if you evaluate. And I don't care, offense or defense, whoever, if it's Jeff on offense and Dave on defense or Matt, you have to evaluate, and you got to hit on the talent. Well, I don't see right now, a dominant D lineman, a dominant linebacker. The 2 best guys in the secondary you mentioned earlier are freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
On the offensive line, we don't have an offensive line that you would say, hey, is a great player. We're average at running back, maybe slightly above at receiver. We don't have a lot of playmakers. And that's the truth. And I think people have, I don't know about y'all, but it's come to that point where you better realize it, because this recruiting is going to be big.
Paul Catalina and I, we still absolutely deserve an asterisk on the Andrew Billings commitment.
I just saw where he got a new contract.
Yes,
I just laughed.
He did. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Anthony, his dad, and I, we still visit. That will be one of my, when I write my book, it's going to be one of my all-time stories. I'd already told Art he's going to TCU. Well, we're not going to get him. But I'm going to plug Ahmad. Ahmad saw him before he went into that with y'all, and y'all too. Y'all helped. I mean, I don't know what it was, but what a joy he was and is.
I don't think, Phil, I'll tell you, we had just gotten back from New Orleans in the Super Bowl, and I had acquired a stomach bug, of which I have never seen the equal. And I sat there, I thought he must have thought, like, what the hell is wrong with Paul? I was dying.
He just thought you were pissed because he was about to pick TCU.
Yeah.
The Phil Bennett phone call in the parking lot at the station is still legendary. Can't wait for that to be a part of the book. Can't wait for the book. Phil, can't wait till next Monday. Always great to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Phil Bennett with us Mondays at just after 5 o'clock on 365 Sports.